What's up guys, Gunk or BB here, and we're back with week 5 of MBC. We're going against Jetman, which I actually known Jetman for a while because he's over on LDL. I don't know if you guys are aware, but in my channel, my first Wi-Fi league was LDL, and I didn't win, but I've played on LDL before and actually won. And not only that, but I won a game. I got a free version of BDSP, which again kinda sucks, so I regret spending my money there, but I couldn't recommend them enough. Go ahead and go to LDL, go check out Jetman, good stuff. And before we get into the battle, there's a couple things that you'll see this video, like if you're a regular that watches my stuff, it's gonna be a little different. I'm trying to experiment with like different style of content because well, on this last one it felt like it was really long, and I like watching long draft content. I watch Pokemon, MB, all of that, you know, like old school, like here's the team builder, here's the battles type stuff. I don't think that's bad, but as I was watching my own stuff, I'm like, I don't like this. Like, I wouldn't watch this, and like that's my own video. It's like that felt pretty bad because I wouldn't watch it. So I'm like, I need to change it up, and because I do post commentary, I was kind of like studying like the other like draft players that do post commentary, how they do it, and you know, just getting some ideas around. And I'm gonna apply that to this video, and even the next one's gonna be a little different than this one. Just things that I'm gonna try and see what I like more, and hopefully I can make some content that I will watch, because otherwise what's the point, right? And yeah, that's about it. Let's get into the battle. Alright everyone, we're just gonna get right into it. Like I said, we're gonna do things a little different here. As for the team builder, it's just going to be a little more concise and more to the point. So when I first saw this team, I saw that they're really weak against Mamoswine, so this is the first one I built around, and we're gonna go with Icicle Crash, Earthquake, Freeze Dry, and Sub. The idea here is to sub on either Heatran or Enamorus and hopefully get 2 kills from there. If I can manage to get a sub, that's essentially 1 guaranteed kill if things go, you know, how they should go. We have Freeze Dry mainly or only for Ogerpon Wellspring. I'm very weak to Ogerpon, so the Freeze Dry is actually very helpful, as it does up to like 90%, depending on the set of course. To get Mamoswine in, I figured I needed something that has good speed, and none other than Rory Moon has actually an amazing speed tier here, being able to outspeed pretty much everything with the Scarf. We're going with Knockoff, Ironhead, Sand Headbutt, U-Turn. U-Turn of course, so I can get the Mamoswine in. Knockoff because it's my most spammable move here, as well as something that helps out Mamoswine and other Pokemon that are supposed to break. Sand Headbutt and Ironhead. Well, Sand Headbutt's mainly for Okidogi. I am very weak to Okidogi, so if that thing's like setting up in front of me, which I expect it to be bulk up, I can actually lose. So Sand Headbutt will be my best play around it, even if it's not exactly the best, as +1 can actually take a Sand Headbutt, depending on the EV spread and all that stuff. Ironhead of course for Enamorus. I would rather U-turn out on that. It's just in case I have to predict the Enamorus coming in, I could go for that, but I much rather U-turn and get my Mamoswine in. My other breaker that's supposed to work alongside with Mamoswine is 4 attacks Ogerpon Heartflame. We're making it slower than the other Ogerpon, that's on purpose. We are very weak to Ogerpon, so you will fear the speed tie is something I want to risk, but actually the opposite. I do not want to risk that speed tie. I would rather have some bulk so I can take a couple other hits, mainly on Ogerpon. Stomping Tantrum is for Heatran. I expect Ability Shield Heatran a little bit because it's the best way of dealing with fire moves coming from Ogerpon. If you guys don't know, Ability Shield would mean that Flash Fire is no longer ignored by Mold Breaker. It's not something that I'm like 100% expecting, but it can come here. Ivy Cudgel's very spammable. And bring Stopping Tantrum. You can see that my other moves don't really hit Heatran very well. So I can actually expect a little bit that my opponent can bring Ability Shield. And in that case, I don't want to be walled by Heatran. We have Play Rough for Hydreigon and Sand Headbutt again for Okidogi. With these 4 moves, we hit everything pretty much. It's a little sad not having Grass for Donphan because Donphan is actually a pretty bulky Pokemon. And I also don't have any setup like Sword Sense or anything like that. But I think 4 attacks can actually break pretty well. As for our defensive backbone, not a lot to say here. We just have Fizz Def Corv as well as Mixed Defensive Sylveon. Just very standard stuff. One Defox, the other one has Roar, just to prevent things going out of control, like mainly an Amarus or stuff like that. Lastly, this is mainly a Heatran switching, although if it's an offensive Heatran, I don't take like Eruption very well, and this is potentially something that can sweep him. Water and Flying hit the entire team super effectively, or at least neutral. And once I get 2 Aqua Steps up, it might be game. And that's gonna be the team. Let's go right into the battle now. Alright, we're gonna get into the battle here against Jetman. As you can see, he's bringing Okidogi, which I definitely expected. We're very weak against the Okidogi, as well as the Ogerpon. Namor's Tyrann also makes sense for a lot of my offensive Pokemon, especially Roaring Moon. Glaceon, which can be something like Specs, offensive, something like that. We don't have the best switchings against. And even a bulky one would be a problem against Mamoswine and other Pokemon that I have. Hydreigon and Heatran, of course, rounding out the team. Also makes sense here. We're gonna lead with Roaring Moon, as I am Scarf and nothing really outspeeds me. And I can get a U-turn if I don't like the matchup. We see that Jetman leads with Hydreigon, as I lead with the Roaring Moon, and this is a pretty easy U-turn on my part. The only drawback here would be, of course, something along the lines of Flame Body, Heatran burning me, but we're able to get the U-turn off. We do more than half to Hydreigon, which is fantastic. We're easily gonna go into Sylveon here. I am not expecting a Dragon move on this, but they did stay in, so my best switching would be a Sylveon. They do U-turn, so I am losing momentum here. Expecting probably Heatran to come in, but it's the Okidogi that comes in. I could stay in here, go for Hyper Voice, expecting them to set up, but as it turns out, if it is a bulky set with Bulk Up, it can actually set up on me pretty easily because Hyper Voice doesn't do that much. So here I'm gonna have to switch out. Mainly, or probably into the Corviknight, but as I was seeing in the calc, Corviknight doesn't really beat this if it's a bulk up set, so it's better if I go into Quaquaval and try to set up alongside it with Swords Dance. We go Quaquaval. Take a Thunder Punch, and it actually turns out to be a Choice Band Okidogi, which in a way I do rather is Choice Band because Bulk Up like literally 6-0s me. That being said, Choice Band is a very good bring, very strong. We're gonna switch into Mamoswine now that I know it's Choice Lock. However, my opponent makes an amazing switching here, and they go into Ogerpon, so of course, fantastic play, predicting my Mamoswine. Thought about going into Roaring Moon, but I figured it was a little crazy to do that just yet. And I'm just gonna go back into Quaquaval because while I could roost on other stuff, it's better to just sack this. I don't have the best switches to Ogerpon, so down's gonna go Quaquaval to the Ogerpon, and that's gonna be the first kill of the match. From here on out though, I can very easily just go into my Roaring Moon. And it's just rinse and repeat. I can just U-turn, I get a pretty good chunk on the Ogerpon. If they switch out, I of course gain momentum and I can go into something else. They do stay in though, which is amazing because I can get more than half on the Ogerpon. And this is a very easy switching to Corby Knight because if you stay in, you're probably trying to either set up or going for play rough. All of which Corby Knight can handle pretty well. We do see the play rough, it connects and it does nothing. I am physically defensive Corby Knight, almost exclusively for the Ogerpon. So from here on out, I'm just going to U-turn. If they stay in, they take a good chunk, potentially going to kill them actually. And if they switch out, you see that they go into hit-run here. I can just go into something else. Here's where having Quaquaval would have been very useful, but the thing is I would rather sack that into the Ogerpon as we don't have the best water resist. You can go back into Roaring Moon. I'm not Earthquake, but definitely threaten the hit-run here. We're just going to click knockoff. If you stay in here and you're defensive, I will gladly take your leftovers, which we don't see its leftovers actually, but you know what I mean. We can weaken a defensive set or an offensive one. They do go into Enamorus. I take out the leftovers. Looking at that damage, it is a pretty bulky Enamorus. However, we do go into Celion here. And despite being a bulky Enamorus, we see that the Moonblast here is going to do a pretty good chunk. I of course don't know the set, but as it turns out, the damage call is telling me that this is probably modest. It's actually pretty strong, so we're just gonna go for a wish here. I went into Sylveon expecting something along the lines of Calm Mind. We do see Sludge Bomb, which is pretty interesting, definitely catching me off guard there. And now my Sylveon is pretty weak. And I could wish up here, you know, just stay in and take the wish. But the thing is, I am actually going to lose against this Enamorus, so I'm just gonna switch out. I go into my Mamoswine so I can start doing damage again. Mystical Fires, no problem, we're Thick Fat, and we get the wish off. Special attack drop does not matter. We are a mixed Mamoswine, but Ogerpon's already in range of Freeze Ray. So we're just going to substitute here, expecting a switching, as they do switch into Heatran. So in this position, we are in a great spot here. We are faster than Heatran, and we can kill it with Earthquake. And not only that, but we get to keep the substitute, so potentially can get 2 kills here. We're just gonna go for Earthquake so we can knock out the Heatran. And it turns out that it's a Scarf Heatran. Definitely a very interesting set. I gotta admit that against Eruption I wasn't exactly well prepared. I was expecting something along the lines of Magma Storm into Solar Beam, so you can get rid of the Gastrodon. But we are able to take down the Heatran with an Earthquake. Would have loved to keep the substitute, but they were Scarf, so there's no way around it. We do go over Ogerpon. Would love to have Ishard here, but we're unfortunately not Ishard. So we're just gonna sack the Sylveon here. Every time this thing comes in, I pretty much have to pick a side. It's just, there's nothing that switches into this very well. Other than Corby Knight, but I do risk getting crit, so I don't like switching to Ogerpon just like that. But we're able to go into Roaring Moon again. Even Scarf is actually amazing in this game because I just keep threatening here. You stay in, you die. If you switch out, I gain momentum and bring Mamoswine or something else in. Which is exactly what's gonna happen here, as I am able to U-turn on Enamorus. Part of the reason why I also knocked off, because I expect the Enamorus was probably gonna come in here. and no leftovers is actually amazing. Here comes my Mamoswine again. Because I subbed last time, I am expecting this to stay in. So I'm just gonna go raw for the Icicle Crash here. They do switch out though. And their switching is Okidogi, which despite being offensive, it's gonna take... well, it takes it pretty well. It's actually a 3-hit KO. And this is a very awkward position for me because there's no fighting resist in my team anymore. Even when Sylveon was up, it is weak to poison, so obviously not the best switching, but we're gonna go into Corviknight with max defense, and it's our best switching against this. As they do go for a Banded Drain Punch, which is very strong, and not only that, but it's also healing them. It's not ideal. This is a very awkward position for me. Take leftovers, but like I said, that Drain Punch is very spammable against me. We are going to Roost though because I want Corviknight to be healthy. It's so strong. Okidogi is so strong. We'll Roost, go back to a decent amount of HP. And we get leftovers as well. Unfortunately, the Okidogi is back to full, and because of that, I'm gonna click U-turn, as I'm probably expecting them to expect me to click Brave Bird. Actually, switch out. Here comes the Namorous. So this is another rinse and repeat. I can just U-turn into my Mamoswine. Now, last time they went into Okidogi, but I still think my best play would be to Icicle Crash here. I was thinking about doubling there, expecting Okidogi, but it's better I just get damage here. They do stay in. I am able to get the Namorous out of the field, which is fantastic for my Roaring Moon later on. But in comes Okidogi again, and at this point, going to Corviknight doesn't make a lot of sense, and Mamoswine, to me it already did its job. It killed Enamorous and Hitron, which is what I wanted to kill with Mamoswine, so I'm just gonna stay in. They do go for the Drain Punch, and down goes Mamoswine. I'd rather sack Mamoswine than to take unnecessary damage on the Corviknight, because Corviknight is the one thing that can take a Banded Drain Punch fairly reasonably well. But now we can go into Ogerpon, and Send Headbutt should kill this. He does stay in, and the Send Headbutt connects, and we can kill the Okidogi. From this position, Ogerpon can pretty much win on its own, depending of course on the Glaceon, which I expect to be Terra. He does go into Glaceon, so it's pretty obvious that he's not just Ice Glaceon. He has to be Terra. I'm expecting Ground. He does Terra. And it turns out it's Terra Ghost. It actually helps me out because, like I said, I have Roaring Moon in the back, and we're setting up for a Roaring Moon sweep. We go for Ivy Cudgel unless this is physically defensive. This is not gonna take it well, and it does take it pretty decently. It does around half, and with leftovers, it's actually gonna take another one. And he did go for Wish, so yeah, all I can do here is spam Ivy Cudgel, but it's better to just switch out. I go into Roaring Moon, expecting a switching, or, you know, like Protect or something like that. I figured you wouldn't freeze right here or Ice Beam. They do go into Hydreigon, and it goes back to almost full HP, which is not good, obviously. But we can just U-turn here again. Puts in range of the next U-turn. Now we're gonna go into Corviknight. Based on the way he's playing the High Dragon, it doesn't seem like he's set up. See, as he goes for U-turn again, so I'm expecting something along the lines of Choice Scarf or something like that. He goes back into Glaceon. This is an interesting position because obviously I don't want him to keep wishing all of his Pokemon. That being said, I can always U-turn on all of them with Roaring Moon. So my play here is to go for Brave Bird and try to keep it down, or try to keep it low, so that he can wish into his other Pokemon. Brave Bird does a pretty good amount, but it's not enough. And we do see Jetman going for Wish here. The point of the battle that he gets a little slow, but it is a stalemate of 3 against 3, and even though I have some pretty good offensive Pokemon, it's really hard to get them in, especially Roaring Moon, considering Glaceon is actually pretty strong, so I don't want to switch it into an Ice Beam or something like that. So I'm just gonna opt to keep the Glaceon as low as possible so it can stop wishing. Corviknight is looking pretty good here, because anything that switches into Braver is going to die. See, Freeze Ray actually does a pretty good amount. You just Roost Stall a little bit more, trying to waste some turns. You see more Wish on the Glaceon side. Use your Brave Birding so I can keep it low. You see a Shadow Ball, which is only slightly stronger than the Freeze Ray. It's a pretty good amount though. But yeah, we just need to keep the Glaceon low so it doesn't wish pass into something else. If Ogerpon comes in on the Braver, it's gonna die. A Dragon could potentially die at that percent. More Wish spam. Like I said, it's kind of an awkward situation. It's a little stalemate. I do feel confident with my Corviknight here, and they do switch out trying to heal up the Ogerpon. However, in this turn I actually went for the Brave Bird. And from this point on, it's looking pretty... It's looking like it's on our side. Leftovers. But here it is, High Dragon. We know that this is probably a Scarf, or at the very least Specs, or Choice Item. I was thinking here about switching, since you're probably not gonna click a Dragon move, but there's no reason for me to risk that, so I'm just gonna take whatever move they go for. Flamethrower actually does a pretty good amount, it's a 2-hit KO, so I'm just gonna U-turn. But it looks like Roaring Moon just comes in and claims. This is now in range of knockoff. And the Glaceon did Terra into a Ghost type, which means I can knock this out. We see that it is Choice Scarf. Yep. And lastly is the Glaceon, which Terra into a Ghost type, so I don't expect this to take it very well. This is a knockoff from a Roaring Moon, so we land the knockoff, and it takes down the Glaceon. And that's gonna be game. GG to Jetman, of course. Like I said, go check out his side. I don't think he's uploading, but I just mean his side in general, like his YouTube and stuff. Like I said, LDL, the league that he's an admin on, I couldn't recommend that enough. Go check them out. It's always a good time over there. And let me know what you think of this new, like, more snappy, more concise content, shorter battles type stuff, and see you next time.